So for this one, we're going to make a piece of string that's going to be going back and forth. And this is to show the principle of follow through and overlapping action. So I'm going to make a new composition. I'm going to call it string. And again, make sure it's set to 12 frames per second. Now, once we're here, just going to make a rectangle shape. Okay, and we're going to make a few pieces of these and make them fairly small. Okay, once made, I'm going to do a few other things. Okay, I'm going to go up to the selection tool. Okay, or I can press V on my keyboard and just going to move it into position, kind of center, and this first piece is going to be at the top. Okay, this is going to make a brand new shape layer for us. So I'm just going to rename this to string 1. And the next thing here, we can see the pivot point is in the center of the screen, and I want to move this pivot point into the middle. So we can go over here, next to the rectangle tool is the pan behind tool, or the anchor point tool. Okay, again, you can use the shortcut key of Y for this. This allows me now to grab and drag up the pivot point. So I don't want it in the center of the object because this is going to be swinging from the top. So I'm going to move this to the very top of my rectangle. So this is where, when it starts to rotate, it's going to rotate from this top point. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to go back to the selection tool. And we're going to make a few different string items now, okay? So all I'm going to do is, with the string 1 selected, I can just press Control and D on my keyboard, and it's going to make a duplicate for me. So I'm just going to make a few of these. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of cascade them so they're all at the bottom of each other. Okay, and 3 and 4. Okay, and make sure that they're all inside order as well. So it should be string 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to duplicate one more time for number 5. And this one, I'm just going to sort of change the shape of this object just to make it different. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So first, I want to expand our timeline because I want to see the individual frames. So at the bottom, I can just drag to the right to zoom in, and zoom in all the way to the right until you see the individual frames. We say 01F for frame, 02F, 03F, etc. So frame 0, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, etc, etc. So next, what I want to do is I want to link all these shapes, all these objects together. So I can do that by, on the right hand side, there's a section here for parent and link. So for each string, it's going to follow on from the one above it in the order. So string 1 doesn't need to have any parent because that is going to be our parent object. That's the first object. So string number 2 needs to be connected to string number 1. So in the drop down list, I can just choose string 1. String 3 then is going to follow on. So string 2 is next, so it's going to be connected to the one above it. So again, just follow on from that. So each string should be connected to the one above it. So now that they're all parented, we can start to animate. So we're going to animate first of all on string 1, just to get the basic movement going. Okay, then we can go back in and use the animation principle to refine the animation. So first of all, I'm going to click on string number 1 and press R on my keyboard to access the rotation. I'm going to click on the stopwatch to set the first keyframe, and I'm going to press F9 on my keyboard to turn it into an easy ease. Okay, that's going to give us a more fluid motion. Now we can click on the pinhead and drag it over to frame number 8. And all I'm going to do on string number 1 is just move the rotation to one side. Okay, so just imagine a pendulum sort of swinging back and forth. Okay, so something like that looks fine for me. And there's our first keyframe. So it's going to slowly go to one side and it's going to swing back again. So this one's going to be a little bit quicker. So I'm going to try it, not quite 8 frames. Although let's try it and see how it goes. So I've moved the playhead and I'm just going to click to make a new keyframe there as well. So now you can kind of see it's going to be swinging. So I just need to move this to 0. Cool. So now it should be swinging to the left and then swinging back again. And then from there, I'm going to drag it over a number of frames and set another keyframe. And let's move this one over to the right. So swinging to the right, okay. And then it's going to quickly go back. Set another keyframe here and move this back to 0 again. So now I'm going to set the play to be repeated. So I'm going to move it over to the first frame and press B on my keyboard. Then if I move over to the very last frame and press N on my keyboard, that sets the beginning and the end. So now it's just going to be a loop of that small animation. So as I play, we can just see now it's swinging back and forth. So now we need to think about animating the other steps to really give it that swinging motion, okay? And that's where this principle comes in. So follow through and overlapping action. So what this means is we need to make it so this bottom part, remember we're rotating from string 1. So this is going to move first and all these other pieces need to follow on behind it. Okay, so this is that follow through. So it's when this moves, there's an action that follows sort of behind it. Okay, and then it's going to swing forwards and backwards, and that's the overlapping action. Okay, where the two actions, this parent is sort of doing the first action, and the follow through and overlapping action is when it kind of follows through and overlaps background. Okay, and that's the principle of the idea, and you're going to see it's going to make it a little bit more fluid. That's why this principle is really important. It creates more natural, fluid animation. So how are we going to do that? So we've made our basic keyframes on string number 1. So now we're just going to work on string 2 to 5. So I'm going to click on string 2, hold shift and click on string number 5. And now let's move it over to the first end, the first extreme frame, which is frame 8. Let's press R on my keyboard now to set a rotation on these items. And now, if I move this, you see how now, because they're all parented, it's going to create a more of a following arc. Okay, and this is kind of what we want. This is how we're going to create that really fluid animation. So, as it's rotating, I kind of want it to be sort of negative at this point because it's following behind it. Okay, it's that secondary action. So something like that may be quite nice. Let's have a look. Oh, I forgot to set a keyframe at 0. So let's do that first. Cool. So now I've got my keyframes there. Again, I'm going to press F9 to turn these into easy ease frames. I can highlight these ones and do the same here as well. So now it's creating that really nice sort of curved motion first of all. Cool. So now as it stops here, as the string number 1, as it starts to rotate back to the middle again, this is where now we really need to create that overlapping action. Okay, so if I move it over to the next keyframe, and this time I'm going to swing it back to the positive now, so it goes the other way. Okay, and that's going to give it that really nice turning motion. So as we play through, it's going to swing to one way. Okay, and then cut back round and swing the other way. Okay. So it's creating that really nice motion now. Okay, so that's that overlapping action. As one action starts going one direction, the items that are connected to it go the other way. Okay, and it creates that overlapping of two actions. And that's kind of how nature works. Okay, so it's all about gravity and, you know, powers, if you want to look at these scientific terms. So now I'm just going to move over to the next set of keyframes. So as string number 1 is swinging to the right, okay, that's looking quite nice. Okay, but now we need to make, again, an overlapping action. As this string 1 stops to the right, this bottom part needs to follow through. Okay, so that's why it's the follow through, overlapping action. Okay, so we need to make that follow through. So now in this position, I'm going to rotate to the negative now to kind of get that swing in motion. That's going to add a keyframe there, and then it's going to swing back round to the middle sort of position. So let's play that now and let's see how that looks. Wonderful. So you see how now it sort of creates a bit of an action and an arc. I'm going to edit this first action though, because I don't like how that first one is going. So it needs to be a bit more rotated. So I'm going to click on string number 1. And let's change that rotation first of all. Cool, that's looking better. Just going to edit string 2 to 5 as well. Cool. And that's looking really nice. So that's the principle of a follow through action, okay, where as one object moves, the other objects that are connected to it kind of follow behind it, okay, so it follows the first action. And then we have an overlapping action as one starts to rotate in the other direction. Everything else is going to overlap that action and then swing back round. And that principle is going to give us really nice flow and really nice movement to your animation. So it's a really strong principle. So try that for yourselves and let's see how you get on.